Welcome to today's Explainer. Right now we're diving into the absolute ultimate 2-week blueprint to totally shatter your English fluency plateau. Seriously, if you've ever felt stuck in that frustrating rut, where you understand almost everything you hear, but the second you actually have to open your mouth to speak, you just freeze? Well, you are exactly who this is for. We're going to show you how to completely transform your spoken English using just 15 to 30 minutes of daily practice. No expensive language classes, no exhausting 5-hour weekend cram sessions. Just you, your everyday routine, and a highly targeted action plan.
So here's a quick look at our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The fluency plateau. 2. Consistency over intensity. 3. 7 solo speaking techniques. 4. The 2-week action plan. And finally, 5. When to go live.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the fluency plateau, understanding the block. This is a super familiar frustration for millions of language learners out there. I mean, you know all the grammar rules, right? You've got this massive vocabulary, you can read English articles perfectly fine, but the moment a native speaker asks you a simple question, your mind just goes completely blank. You completely freeze up. That right there, that's what we call the fluency plateau.
And it naturally leads us to asking this one question. Why is my progress so slow? It's literally the question that haunts every single language learner. Are you just terrified of making mistakes? Are you actually just practicing the wrong way? Well, the research tells us that a lot of learners are basically sitting on the sidelines. They're passively consuming English, watching videos, reading silently, but they aren't actively producing the sounds themselves. That silence, that is exactly what's holding you back. Moving on to Section 2, consistency over intensity, the secret metric. What we're looking at here actually reveals the single biggest myth in all of language learning. Let's compare these two approaches. What absolutely does not work is silent reading, those grueling 5-hour weekend study binges, and just sitting around waiting until you finally feel ready to speak. See, when you leave these massive gaps between your practice sessions, your brain spends all its time just relearning what you forgot, instead of actually moving forward. Contrast that with what really works, just 15 to 30 minutes of highly focused daily vocal practice. Small, consistent daily efforts create massive long-term results. Your brain actually needs that sleep cycle consolidation between short daily sessions to build up the physical muscle memory required for fluent speaking. Okay, Section 3, 7 solo speaking techniques, your daily toolkit. We're going to break down exactly what you should be doing during those short daily sessions to actively build up that muscle memory. Our very first technique is called shadowing. This is where you pick a podcast, maybe a YouTube video, or a TED Talk featuring a clear English speaker, and you literally repeat what they say out loud, lagging behind them by just half a second. It's amazing because it brilliantly trains your mouth to form English sounds at native speed. You're mimicking their pace, their intonation, and you're doing it all without the stress of having to invent your own original sentences. It completely bypasses that annoying translation lag in your brain.
Then we have technique number 2, the 60-second topic rule. So, you set a timer for 1 minute and you speak aloud in English about absolutely any topic. But here's the catch. You cannot stop, you cannot restart, and you definitely cannot correct yourself mid-sentence. Why? Because this forces your brain to prioritize forward motion over perfection. In the real world, conversations punish hesitation way more than they punish tiny grammar slips.
Now, if you're sitting there wondering, well, what on earth do I talk about for 60 seconds? Just use everyday questions as prompts. Think about simple things like what time do you go to bed, or what's your favorite food, or where would you like to travel next? Just pick one, hit start on your timer, and let the words flow. It really doesn't have to be complicated.
To round out your solo toolkit, try these other habits. Read articles out loud at a natural speaking pace to build up your phrase formation speed. Record yourself daily. Seriously, you won't even notice your own ums and ahs until you play the audio back. Use pronunciation apps to drill specific sounds. And try self-narration. Basically, talk to yourself out loud while you're doing chores. Say things like, I'm chopping onions, or I'm waiting for the bus. And finally, try watching English shows once with subtitles on, and then again without them, summarizing the plot out loud.
Which brings us to Section 4, the 2-week action plan, your practical blueprint. So how do we actually stack all these habits together into a roadmap that works? Well, this is where the magic happens. Here is your blueprint. In week 1, your main goal is simply to build the foundation. Listen daily to tune your ears and focus on learning full phrases instead of isolated words. So, instead of just memorizing the word busy, learn the phrase, I'm really busy today.
Speak out loud and give that shadowing technique a try. Then, in week 2, you shift into active use. Start consciously thinking in English during your daily routine to kill that mental translation habit. Record your voice, practice telling short stories about your day, and really challenge yourself to simulate real-life interactions.
And this brings up a totally vital mindset shift you're going to need for these next 2 weeks. Confidence does not come before action. It comes from action. So many learners just wait and wait until they feel perfectly fluent before they're willing to speak out loud. But honestly, that's completely backwards. You have to take the risk of speaking first. The confidence is the reward you get for taking that action.
Also, instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. It is incredibly easy to watch a fluent native speaker and just get completely discouraged. But don't do that. The only metric that actually matters is your own personal progress. If you can speak with just a little less hesitation today than you did yesterday, you are winning.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, when to go live, breaking the final barrier. Because what happens when you've mastered these solo techniques? Even with the absolute best solo plan in the world, there's an honest limit to how much you can progress just practicing alone in your room.
Here's the deal. Solo practice perfectly builds your foundation. It's fantastic for vocabulary recall, pronunciation, and basic sentence construction, but it has a limit. It simply cannot build conversational fluency under stress. It can't simulate that stranger pressure you feel when you're talking to someone new, and it definitely can't give you spontaneous Q&A reflexes, mainly because you already know what you're going to say to yourself. To break through that final plateau, you absolutely need real human interaction.
And that is why experts recommend the Ultimate Fluency Stack. Use your solo techniques, like shadowing and the 60-second rule, as a 10-minute daily warm-up. But then pair them with just 15 minutes of live, one-on-one practice with a real person, maybe 3 times a week. The solo work keeps the basic muscle warm, but the live work builds the under-pressure muscle. Neither one really substitutes for the other, but together they are an incredibly effective combination.
So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to kickstart your 2-week plan. What is the one small, spoken risk you are willing to take in English today? Are you going to shadow a TED Talk? Will you set a timer for 60 seconds and talk about your favorite food out loud? Whatever it is, don't wait until you feel ready. Take the action today to meet your future fluent self. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep speaking.